And this elementary school, again, seen huge shift in dynamics as well. But staff and principals that are pretty open to partnerships. They've had a number of different kinds of projects here. And it's so close to MCC. Like, why would this not be a site where we have lots of activity happening,
Right.
right? And with K-12 funding, it can be a struggle, So what if you had like a group of students from a science class come and do some cool activities, right?
Yeah.
Supplement what students are receiving. And so again, pretty typical K-6 school that Mesa has oodles of, but
Yes.
again, so close to MCC. So
Right.
what kind of regular partnerships could be developed that
Yeah.
would offer some cool stuff for students, but both students, right? Get
Yeah.
ours engaged. And I know we have service learning, we have some faculty that do that. But here, because of the density, the school district was pretty landlocked, and yet they were seeing some challenges with enrollment numbers increasing. And again, you got multifamily. So what they ended up doing on this corner here at Alma School and Broadway, it used to be a grocery store that went under. So they bought the place and repurposed it into an elementary school.
Okay.
This one is predominantly Hispanic, predominantly Spanish speaking family, very much a walking school. And that principal is really, really keen on community partnerships.
Okay.
Just very open to it, volunteers in the classroom, and does just a wealth of programming to support his families. Yeah, he does some amazing stuff. Next neighborhood we're going to cruise through. Boulder neighborhood, predominantly Latino. And when I years ago, I used to work for the city of Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
Did a lot of projects here, and people's sense of place is really strong in some of these communities. And so again, for our staff and faculty to think of where our students come from, if they've grown up in this tight-knit community, and go to a school where it's, again, very tight-knit, very homogenous, and all of a sudden they walk onto Southern and Dobson's campus. It can be
Right.
such a jarring,
Yeah.
overwhelming experience. And I think we underestimate how difficult that might be for
There's
some
adjustment. Yeah, for
of our
sure.
community members. Again, lots of great families that live here that have been here for generations, very much involved in politics. I think was Arizona's attorney general for a while. In any event, they named it after him, but it is one of the few that actually has a charter school right here on the campus.
Okay.
It's the Arts Academy. Serves again a really diverse population. This is another opportunity to create connections. You got a ready-made site here that has a lot of traffic.
Right.
So how is it that we sort of take advantage of these sites, right?
Yeah.
Instead of always expecting people to come to us, how do we extend to other folk? And as we cross here, so a lot of the families there will either go to that Arts Academy, which is a charter school, or they'll cross the train tracks here and walk over to this elementary school. So you've got industrial on one side, elementary school on the other. Again, serving a really diverse population. The demographics here have changed significantly over time. I think the last time I checked, there were about 85% Hispanic.
Hispanic. Yeah.
Majority of students would be qualifying for free and reduced lunch. And Mesa Public Schools is one of the biggest feeders for our college. Good to know who we are serving. There is a string of mobile home communities. And way back in the day, it was primarily retirees,
Mm-hmm.
but it has really turned into affordable housing for a lot of families. And in this particular area, predominantly Hispanic families, Spanish speaking, there's a migrant parent family program with Mesa Public Schools, led by this fabulous woman who goes out and does community meetings for parents. They'll meet at like the community center of some of these locations. This type of housing has become affordable housing for a lot of families. And they're not large plots, but unfortunately with the housing crisis, a lot of families just rely on any affordable housing that they can find. And so again, think of the sense of place. This is where students come from, and you have a very tight-knit community, and we just expect them to acclimate to our large campus.
I know, suddenly,
quickly.
right?
we just have to really be cognizant of that. So how do we approach our sense of connection, sense of belonging? Everybody talks about that.
Right.
But unless you know where our students come from, how do you do that effectively? And so this is a little community center for this mobile home park. And they'll come and do parent meetings here. And again, really robust participation. It's just another opportunity for us to be connecting in real ways with communities that probably need it the most. And again, years ago, I remember when I was working for the city, it was a lot of retirees and snowbirds that would come and stay here. And now it's become a lot of permanent affordable housing for families. Just a lot of shifts in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Another elementary school called Holmes Elementary School. And again, that's a school that has seen huge shifts over the last couple of decades in terms of their demographics. They're probably about 85% Hispanic, large percentage of students that come from homes where English isn't the primary language. It's not to say that they don't end up leaving with English skills, but the families they come from. So how is it that we communicate and really prove to families that MCC is a good choice for their kids?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got multifamily, a couple single family homes, and then this is operated by Community Bridges. Huge nonprofit. They operate statewide, and it's a lot of assistance for those experiencing drug addiction. And so I'm not sure if it still operates the same way, but they had some programs specifically here for pregnant women or postpartum women with small children that were trying to get into recovery. And so it's just always fascinating. You won't necessarily see this in more affluent communities or the further east you get, but here you have just such a mix all on one street. So you have a drug addiction facility, you've got apartments, you've got single family homes, all, seeking to coexist. This is Mesa Can. It's operated by A New Leaf, which is a very large comprehensive social service agency. A New Leaf has 30 different programs ranging from housing to community services, health. And they took over or asked to take over Mesa Can, which is Mesa's CAP agency. A lot of large cities have a CAP agency, and it's the recipient of federal funds for things like emergency rent assistance, emergency utility assistance. So those programs are run out of here. I'm on the board for A New Leaf, and one of the things that we talk about quite often and why wraparound services are so important is because people don't present with just singular issues any longer. So the likelihood that someone in a domestic violence program needs help with recareering, getting back on their feet financially. Education is always such a key part of that. And I know a lot of our folks realize that, but I think it's important to, again, get a perspective off the island and all across the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
We talk about non-traditional students. So adult workforce, adult reentry, people that just need that little help getting recareered, upskilled so that they can be self-sufficient, and then hopefully return to us later, right? When they need next step in their educational journey. But for a lot of our folks, at-risk community members, that economic need is a huge driver. So how do we provide the kind of programming where they can get self-sufficient and on their feet quickly, again, with the hope that they will come back to us? And then, of course, we've got all those young kiddos coming out of school. So we're just meeting that entire life cycle. But to your point, reconnecting with where folks come from. One of the other programs that A New Leaf has is the Men's Center. So it's a shelter for homeless men, probably 92 beds. The city has funded a lot of support. They receive support from a lot of the East Valley cities, so it's supposed to serve the region. They have a congregate living area, dining hall, meals. I think it's lunch and dinner entirely provided by volunteers 365 days a year.
That's great.
So they have a lot of church groups, civic groups that come out and help. Might be a cool experience for some of our students, but even more so, they have one building that has a tiny little computer lab, some resources so that when the men are successfully able to transition out, I mean, you can imagine that employment is an issue.
Yeah.
Skill acquisition is an issue. So this is another area that could be some potential, right? For partnerships and connections. Not the most convenient of locations, but certainly a population that is in need of support. So it's up against here at the river bottom. It's actually an old bingo hall
Oh, okay.
that was acquired with federal funds to put in this program. The whole issue of NIMBY, nobody wants something like this in their backyard, right? So the siting was intentional.
Sure.
To avoid too much public backlash, and certainly the facility it's serving its purpose. But transportation could be an issue. It's really up here at the edge of nowhere.
Right.
A lot of the guys rely on bikes to get around. So that's the living area, the main building. And then the one that has that peaked roof is the dining hall.
Okay.
But this building here, again, there's a small space, a couple of computers. And if you think about acquiring a job these days, the computer skills and online application. And so,
Things on
again, sort of potentials for areas where we might be of support and assistance. How this idea of, again, workforce connections is such a huge part of what they are trying to do. You can feed someone, but does that break any cycle? It's interesting. I do a lot of work with our nonprofits, and very few of them say that education is their mission, right? They each have a singular mission to either help families or homelessness or whatever the case may be. And yet to get people to break out of their cycles, education is often such a key part of that. And so how do we connect with that sector who are already connecting with people who very likely are in need of what we have to offer? So we'll drive by another New Leaf facility that has a shelter for homeless families. And it's an entire complex that they've developed that also includes permanent supportive housing, transitional housing. There's a Head Start program located on that facility. Again, trying to think of comprehensive services to get people back on their feet. Workforce development. There's a computer lab to help people, re-engage. And so how do we look at that possibility as well? So this is the backside of the complex that I was telling you about, a New Leaf, these big branded buildings. And so it was built in phases, each with a little bit of a different intent. So you've got family shelter, permanent supportive housing for people that just really need ongoing support. The philanthropy office is located here. They have a workforce training center. Big capital campaign. It's really an interesting story. So there were some families in Mesa that saw a need for a shelter for families in crisis. And so that site used to be this really old, rundown motel. And they started a program there, and it eventually grew to the point where it needed professional management. And so a New Leaf acquired the program and started putting in services, but facilities needed upgrade. It was one of those like little travel lodge motels like you see right here. Went to the city for some CDBG, community development block grant funding, federal funding, to upgrade some of the facilities. And the city really challenged them, like, how about just start from scratch rather than trying to band-aid this old property?
Right.
Some of the faucets, water would come out funky color. It's just old and run down. And so they did this entire capital campaign, got low-income housing tax credits, and built that entire complex. And that's been within the last decade. And Mesa is fortunate this way. I think people underappreciate it. There are some really civic-minded, socially aware, philanthropic community leaders. And so a New Leaf originally started 50 years ago now, which is a great track record. Not all nonprofits last that long. So 50 years ago, it started off as prehab, prevention and rehabilitation, and it was a program for youth facing challenges. And again, it just homegrown, people kind of cobbling things together. Early board members, early founders were talk about how, the wife sewed curtains for the facility and meeting in people's homes. And but eventually it grew to the point where it needed professional management. Executive director was hired. they've partnered extensively with the city. So now they've grown, they rebranded. It's called A New Leaf now. 30 different programs, including 2 domestic violence shelters, one in Mesa, one on the west side, workforce development programs, community support, a lot of mental health and behavioral counseling services provided at different locations. United Food Bank is another great story. Started off as, just a pantry trying to help people in crisis, and eventually grew in size and scope, was like housed in a trailer for a while. And now it is part of the Feeding America network and its service area. It's still here in Mesa, started in Mesa, still headquartered in Mesa. Their service area is like a quarter of the state. They run up to several tribal communities up north. All right.
Well,
Well, I
thank
hope you
you.
have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
The biggest community need that people need is getting job ready with a resume or mock interviewing, even interview clothing. But we also have a lot of people that come here for career pathway change in their careers. So we offer training here on site.
Life has become increasingly difficult. Not only has the pandemic unfortunately affected our families, but inflation has is costing families. Let's see, pay raises are going up by 3 to 4%, but our families' cost of living is going up 7 to 10%. Just buying food and bringing a healthy meal to the table is increasingly difficult. So our families are finding the need to again compound that global need to receive services but needing more. So when they're walking in our doors, through that conversation, they're telling us, I need more than just the utility assistance. I need more than just the rental assistance. I need for you to help me with basic needs. I don't have any shampoo. I don't have any laundry detergent. I don't have any toilet paper. And I know it seems insignificant, but to those families who cannot pay those utility bills, those rental bills, the basic needs are also unfortunately become very extreme.
That we're a very small office and we're only here for utility and rental assistance. But we have the first floor with the case management team that does assist the families in need. But we have the whole second floor that assists with job readiness. We have career advisors on site. We partner with Arizona at Work, and we also assist with financial wellness and everything to get them ready for employment.
I would tell our leaders that more funding for infrastructure. We provide a strong foundation for those families who need, but we need more dollars to pay. Why? Because what we've been seeing here at our community services division is that we're bringing in more services, we're partnering with more partners to holistically help our families because not only do they need help with food and utility and rent, but they also are seeking additional services. Community legal services comes in house now to help those who are fighting with landlord needs. People need to have access to how do I apply for access? How do I apply for the Affordable Care Act? Those basic needs, whether it's a barrier because English is a second language. Our leaders need to know that fundamentally bringing in more resources to a one-stop shop methodology allows our families to come in to a trusted entity and then get all of those needs met.
The types of clients that come through here are people who are just in the middle of just changing their careers. They're working part time. They want to gain meaningful employment, either full time or just an industry change. We have a lot of people that come here that just need to update their resumes or want us to have them partner with our employer partners in the community by doing a job match where we call the employer in their behalf. So we have that service where employers love when we refer people over to them. So after COVID, the industries that got hit the hardest that we saw, people that will work in the hospitality industry, transportation industry, um, getting getting them back into the workforce because they were either working from home and they were getting comfortable, and then now they're getting back into the workforce where they're not job ready, and they've struggled with interviewing. These all these The struggles also included rental and utility assistance, where they got behind on their rent. And the beauty of this building is we offer that service here downstairs. We do offer financial literacy here on site. We do have a financial wellness program. A lot of our clients have admitted that their credit scores needs a lot of help because they didn't pay their bills on time, or they were ready to file bankruptcy. But once they come through our program, we get them back on track. We have workshops for them. We also assist them with uh, services that will help them increase their credit score through Operation Hope, and it's all at no cost to the families.
We're very, very proud of the vital services that we bring to the community. Our assets to opportunity programs offer our families who struggle with basic post-secondary education, and we allow through match savings to help those families pay for post-secondary education. Not only does it allow those of low to moderate means, but those who are here are immigrants that are DACA, are dreamers that don't have access to FAFSA because they're not U.S. citizens. This is an opportunity for them to utilize these funds to pay for their own education. And it can be across the board. Not everybody is seeking a bachelor's degree. So a trade school that pays well, a community college that allows an opportunity for you to get an associate or a certificate, that bachelor's degree that will allow the income to grow. We offer an 8-to-1 match for our education piece across the board. And then we offer a 3-to-1 for what I call our entrepreneurs that are not savvy business people. So even small businesses in the city of Mesa are allowed to grow through this ATO program.
What I wish the leadership would know about our community is that we have a very robust professional team of career advisors here ready to assist them with resume writing and interviewing techniques, and also the supportive services that we provide. Um, a lot of our employer partners are not aware that we provide our clients with interview clothing, suits for men. We provide those basic services at no cost. We also provide services such as bus passes and gas cards and things like that to get them to their job. I wish our I welcome any company to come and just tour our facility and find out what look at the boutique that we have and come tour. It's at no cost, and we welcome any company to come here and see what we do. And we have an experienced, again, group of people that are just very passionate about assisting families in need.
What I wish our community leaders would know about the families that walk in our doors is that we get every family from all walks of life. COVID taught us that teachers, police officers, firefighters found themselves for the first time in crisis when they lost their jobs or had to walk away from jobs, when in fact a loved one lost their fight with COVID and or lost their jobs because of COVID. So a lot of people find that they fear that people who walk in our doors are always in crisis, they're always needy, but they're not. Some families just found themselves for the first time not even knowing how to get services here because COVID unfortunately impacted their lives, their livelihood, and those that they love.
The biggest obstacle for families to get back into the workplace is transportation. A lot of times they take public transportation, or they're borrowing families' cars, or they're walking. Transportation continues to be a barrier. We also have a lot of families who live with other family members. And so getting their own place is a challenge. And it's been, this is when we ask for those demographics and we ask the question, are you currently renting? Excuse me, or are you living with family or you're in a shelter? A lot of times they say I'm living with family until I can get back on my feet. And that's been a challenge.
The most significant difficulties we've been seeing recently is the number of continued crisis pieces that our families are needing. Not only can families walk into our doors and receive utility and rental assistance, but we're finding that our families are either in in need of basic needs, in need of food insecurity, so food, they need better paying jobs. So the need has expanded and become a more robust need, not just I need my utilities paid or my rental paid. I need to know how I'm going to get to work. I need to know how I'm going to pay for my daycare, and I need to know how I'm going to bring food to the table. So, what our families are telling us is that uh, their need is not complete with just a utility payment, not just complete with the rental payment, but it's more than that.
My wish list would be having a couple of employers here on site, have a couple offices for them. That way, when individuals come through and are looking for work, we have the employer right across the hallway. That would be my wish list.
If I were to decide what I would want to bring to our services, because they're very much needed, is we know that COVID impacted our families, and a lot of them found that life hit them and hit them hard. So a lot of our families were not able to finish their GED. They weren't able to finish high school. Families who's lost parents to either immigration or lost families to COVID. We found 17 to 19-year-olds become the sole breadwinner and a mother father figure for siblings. So I would bring a GED program to support those families because it's not a trend. Anybody who has a GED program will earn $250,000 more in their lifetime. So if I were queen for the day, I would bring in a basic need like completing your GED so that then we could seamlessly move you to our ATO program and then seek post-secondary education. That is a component that I truly believe our families need right now.
To not give up and to know that there are resources out there to assist them and to come in and even if they are not job searching and a little bit of mentoring and coaching and let them know that somebody's on their side and just that we're here to listen to them and just get them back on track. When they leave our workforce center, they're overwhelmed with all these resources, and that's we know that we did our job because they're going to utilize those resources.